Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to an exciting interview with industry leaders changing the face of automotive retail. I have Kerry Weiss, Chief Marketing Officer, here at the most amazing retail platform, AutoFi. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you, Brian.
Well, one thing I love about your company is the impression that dealers get when they see how much time you invest in getting the process right. I'm thinking of the Hello Auto Group and Carl Schmidt, how they really leaned into AutoFi. I was there at the beginning when Carl was shopping for a DR/showroom experience. At that time, you didn't have a showroom experience. And he was really looking for simplicity, scalability, and accuracy. And Joe St. John and your team, right, leaned in, spent countless hours, and now, man, they are firing on all cylinders. They seem to be a pretty happy customer, Kerry.
They were our first to really pilot showroom, and we call them, they're like our guinea pig. We're so thankful because they made a lot of sacrifices. When you're the first to help get that technology right, you're making sacrifices as well. And I think with Carl, what set him apart from other leaders is that he made a decision, like, we're going to embrace this technology, we're going to incorporate it, and there's going to be some bumps in the road, and we're going to continue forward. We're going to burn those old ships. Everything that we've been doing in the past, there's no going back to that. And that makes such a huge difference. It also makes a big difference with Joe, as you mentioned, who leads our dealer training and our change management. And he moved, to California for 2 months and sold cars with Hello Auto Group, side by side, worked the desk. And so for us, to me, that was the unlock in getting that product right, is having the voice of the customer directly through Joe sent back to our engineers and making these tweaks so that it's actually used.
Yeah, and without disclosing past attempts, Carl had tried 2 other platforms, and he came to me early on and he said, Brian, I'm a little discouraged, but I have a vision what the retail process is going to look like. And, one of the things I said to him is, you need a company who's going to be able to dedicate some resources, because he was a one freight store. He had a very clear vision on what he wanted to accomplish. And at that time, there was a lot of cookie cutter things that didn't work. And so you were number 3, and I guess the third time's the charm. Kerry, let's step back for a moment. During COVID, the pundits said by 2025, something like 30 to 40% of all transactions would be happening online. Of course, we're not at 5%, and it's 2024, quickly 2025. So I guess, what problems are we solving for today that are working? And then what are some problems that we still haven't been able to resolve?
Well, I certainly think that digital retail had some value, obviously, to not only consumers and dealers. From a consumer standpoint, when you talk to consumers, when you see the surveys, we know they want to do parts of the process at home. They want the flexibility to shop the way they want to shop. So if they want to calculate a payment or get a trade value, they want to be able to do that at their own leisure. And I think digital retailing solved certainly for that. I think where the breakdown happened is ultimately this is an expensive purchase. It's a complicated purchase. And from even a finance standpoint, a lot of these consumers are going to get approved through the dealership. They got to get financed. They need to know what they can afford. And I feel like most digital retailing has not actually solved for that gap in terms of finance. What can I afford? Can I get approved? And so ultimately, I'm going to go into the showroom. I have to go into the showroom. I have to interact. And that transition has always been the big breakdown, I think, is what happens from digital retailing into the showroom. And in part because the mentality of our industry has always thought of digital retailing as not a transactional tool, but more of another lead,
Yeah, a super lead.
a super lead.
So out of all the DR platforms, I would say that any dealer who wanted to see Hello Auto Group, that would be one example
Yeah.
of somebody who got it right. Now, let's step back. Carl is a one price store.
Yes.
He's surrounded by sharks who do bait and switch, but he still pushed forward. There are dealers who say, Kerry, I get what you're trying to accomplish. And look, AutoFi can do an accurate trade, an accurate payment, if the consumer wants to provide some information. But I have competitors who are advertising cars, under their cost because they're going to hammer them in F&I. So your tool is always going to show that I'm more expensive. I'm going to lose that customer. And I think for some dealers, this is their big right. If I disclose the full price and my competition is just making up crazy numbers, I'm always going to lose. What would you tell a dealer who's listening in saying, I wish I could get my team more bought in, but everyone's afraid of showing our, like out the door monthly payment with fees and F&I, but no one else is doing it, so I look too expensive.
I think oftentimes we're not looking at the big picture of what we're losing by not giving this information, by not engaging this customer, by sending them down this rabbit hole on our site where they click on some CTA and it says, someone will get back to you soon. We're losing more customers. If we really had a measurement of how many customers run into dead ends on our website or dead ends when they're talking to our people on the phone and leave and go buy somewhere else, or they don't know what they can afford and we don't give them the tools to be able to pre-qualify or get approved. And what do? I go to my bank. I go to my bank to figure that out. I actually, to answer your question, I think we lose exponentially more customers by withholding information, by putting dead ends to our website and our experience than ever we lose by giving information up. I mean, the reality is customers are going to shop, but if I'm on your website, I'm further down the funnel than most. I've worked at third-party websites in my career, and
Yes.
right, if someone makes it to a dealer's website, they're more, I would say they're more serious than the shopper that's on a research site or the shopper that's still trying to figure out what car they want. So I think we need to not worry about the fear of loss and think more about how do I stand out in this sea of sharks who are all wanting to withhold information? How do I stand out? How do I hook that
Right.
customer so that they continue on through my website? How do I hook them so that they don't leave my showroom? And I would say what we have seen is it's a win-win. Giving information, engaging the customer, giving them choices actually has resulted in them not shopping, them not going elsewhere, and they've actually spent more money too.
Well, I would say that I love your response, and I believe that. It takes a commitment, though, right? A consistent commitment. I think it takes a strong leader. So I think digital retailing, connected, as my brother Glenn talks about, that connected marketing to sales experience, advertising your offer, demonstrating it's available on the website, remembering your commitments when they come into the show and delivering on that, right? This idea of connected marketing. Well, it takes a strong leader to get everyone singing off the same playbook. Let me ask you another question, because you've been in, the firing lines, in the front lines, on stage asking questions. One of the other issues is with a complete platform online and in the showroom, which you haven't available now. You have some folks that, I love my desking tool. It's like a sacred, cow. Or, hey, I love our menuing system. It's so magical. How do you get somebody who's very territorial? Yeah, you can put whatever you want on the website. When someone comes in, I don't really buy into that everything has to look the same. Our method has proven to work. How do you deal with those very strong personalities? I've seen them
Yep.
who want to hold on to what I would say old tech.
So, when we think about the showroom, while we have a connected platform, digital retailing, website to showroom, we really think about the showroom as it could be a standalone platform. In other words, you can work it with any customer that's coming in, whether they were on your website or not, right? Because that mentality has to be there that this is the platform, this is the way in which we're going to present numbers through this platform. And so for us, what has enabled us to get dealers to move away from their desking, one is to be integrated with the systems. In some ways, we are a third system. There's the CRM, and you have your customers in that CRM, you're pushing them into AutoFi, you're working the deal, you're getting them approved, you're presenting F&I products if that's what you'd want. And then we integrate with most major DMSs and you're pushing them back into the DMS. We integrate with Dealertrack and Route One. And the way that we also position ourselves is that most desking solutions are pretty antiquated. Is I'm going to get killed by saying that, but I think most technology, and at least the long-standing desking solutions, are antiquated and not actually solving for some of the major problems that still persist. Let me give you a couple examples. One, the bottleneck at the desk, right? And the back and forth that still has to happen. The biggest thing is the gap between the customer and trust. In other words, we have technology that enables our sales managers to work the numbers and desk the deal and get lender approvals and all that. But at the end of the day, we're not solving for that customer who comes in armed, questioning everything. We're not solving for efficiency. Our people being able to do more and not have to go back and forth to the desk 5 times because the customer wanted to change small aspects of the deal. And so I think to us, it's like when we talk to a dealer about their desking, what they think of as being progressive is being able to print out from that desking solution and put numbers in front of the customers. That's absolutely not solving for the problems that we still see persist in the sales process.
Carrie, one of the things that I love about AutoFi is you're an education first company. You really take the time to explain to dealers what the opportunity is, what a new vision of retail looks like, and how your tools support that new vision. You're going to be doing a session at the Modern Retailing Conference, and your sessions are always well attended. The title, it's a long one, but I think it's very interesting. I'd like to learn a little bit more. The showroom is the new digital frontier, arming your team with technology to move faster and drive profit. For the dealers who are listening and hey, you know what? We still haven't found the right tool. We still haven't found the right process to streamline the showroom experience, to get people in and out faster. What are you going to be covering and why should they attend?
Well, I think we're going to start with the problems that still persist. So, for example, when I look at how long it took to sell a car back in 2018, 5 or 6 years ago, it was over 3 hours. Now we're 15 minutes better in 2024, with 90% of dealers saying they have embraced digital retailing and they are leaning into digital. We have improved that by 15 minutes. Our average new car salesperson sells 9 new cars a month. And that has been consistent for the last
Hasn't changed much.
Hasn't changed much. And so with all that technology, at the end of the day, it comes down to the showroom. And if we can't arm our people on that busy Saturday when the waves of customers are coming in, and if every single one of our salespeople has to wait to get numbers for 15, 30 minutes to get numbers out to a customer because everything goes through that desk. And that to me is what I want to talk about. To me, when we talk about digital, that is the frontier, is how do we use technology so that everything isn't dependent on 2 or 3 managers to get numbers out to customers, to get them approved. Technology can solve for this in a way that automates our decisions, in a way that creates guardrails that prevent people from making mistakes every single day. And I almost get frustrated, Brian, in that we pull up our phones and I map the way to my kid's soccer practice.
Right.
Why? Do I know how to drive? Yes. Am I an expert on the route? Yes. But I use Google Maps because it knows in real time when there's accidents and things like that. And so I use that as the analogy of our opportunity in the showroom, that we can actually empower a Greenpeace salesperson to present a number faster with technology, with guardrails that don't let them discount the vehicle.
Yep.
We can get a lender approval today. We can get a lender approval set up with the way that you would have thought, your decisions you would have made without having an individual shotgunning it out to several lenders. To me, we have focused so much on the online experience and technology, and I still believe in that. That's what I obviously have spent most of my career talking about, but to the detriment of actually arming our people with some of that same technology. And that's where the rubber hits the road, like the showroom. And we've ignored
That's
it.
right. So let's go back to my good friend, Carl Schmidt, Hello Auto Group, Progressive, one price. So they take a lot of the going back and forth out. Do you know what their average time is for a transaction at the Hello Auto Group?
Yeah, so our average time we have about 200 stores that are using our showroom, Hello being one of them. And so I'm going to give you some just averages overall. I want to just emphasize that I would say 90% of our stores are not one person, one price.
That's right. That's right. They're unique,
personal.
right? So they should be the lowest.
Yeah.
You know, as a benchmark, but they're the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, most of them. And I say that because a lot of times when dealers hear about this kind of technology or process, they go, oh, that's one person, one price. No way. No way do I ever want to do that. And a lot of times our traditional stores see this as, how do we get numbers out faster? How do we get more credit apps and approvals so that we can get them in F&I and they feel good and they spend more money with our F&I? And that's ultimately what we're seeing. So here's the stats that we see. On average, from first pencil to lender approval, it's about 28 minutes. And that's across our couple hundred of stores. And so if you think about it, that's negotiation and finance. That's usually probably at least 3 times longer when you talk about the back.
That could be a 90-minute process at most stores.
Absolutely. So time is one thing. One thing we see is less fight in terms of the customer saying yes. And it has been, Brian, a shocking thing for us in terms of the psychology of the customer. And I think it comes down to, one, the customer is shocked that salesperson's not leaving them, that they're actually a part of the process. And we give them choices. And so what I think is really important, and I'm going to talk about in my session, is a lot of times in the car business, we don't give a lot of choices. And we know that when a consumer has choices, their chances of buying are higher. If you look across studies outside of automotive. And so we do a lot of, here's the price, yes or no. Here's what we got you approved for, yes or no. And what we're finding is by empowering the customer to be involved in choosing their term, choosing their down payment, to get 3 choices in terms of a lender approval.
Right.
They might come in saying, I will not do more than 10% interest. And because they have 3 choices that are above 10%, they choose the lowest one. And so we're finding that choice is a big part of it, and they're more likely to say yes. And the most important stat that has not surprised us, but has just opened our eyes a little bit, is profit. There's this idea that I give more information, I'm going to make less money. My managers know how to do it best. We have seen a $700 increase in back-end PVR across our 200 stores on average. And that's an average.
Wow.
We have stores that before and after are in $1,000 more back-end PVR. And so for us, there's a correlation. Involving the customer and with some guardrails for that salesperson have actually led to better outcomes in terms of profit.
Yeah, and if you know what, it's kind of like going to a restaurant They know it's busy, but the food is crazy, crazy delayed. By the time they say, hey, do you want any dessert or, after dinner drinks, you're like, no, I'm just getting out of here as quick as possible. And I think that's what happens. Regardless of how good someone's F&I skills, people get so spun out that it took them so long, to transact. By the time they get in the F&I office, they are ready they're angry, they're frustrated, they're late to an appointment. And a lot of that is psychologically impacting their willingness to spend more because you didn't give them a good feeling from what they agreed to, at the beginning.
Yeah.
I look at, I just bought a car
Mhm.
and I did it completely over the phone.
Mm.
And that was the second time I did it over the phone. And I was dealing with the salesman and the F&I manager. And yes, they knew I was in the business, but here's the point. It didn't mean the F&I manager didn't go through. He was like, hey, Brian, listen, I know you're in your business. Let me just tell you things. So here's the special rate that the OEM is giving. And I knew it was a good rate. So do you want to finance? I said, yes, I want to. How much you want to put down? Okay, told him. Okay. Now, just want to let you know on that particular car, those wheels, those rims are super expensive. And are you going to keep this car for a while? I said, yeah, I normally keep my car 4 or 5 years. Well, you may want to take out, the tire and rim. And this was for Carrie. And I was like, you know what? It is a pretty big car. There's a good chance that, curbs can be clipped. I'm like, yeah, everything was so easy. And he just made it very, okay, do you want to get this? Like, no, I don't need that. How about this? And we just had a conversation.
Yeah.
And the transaction, the car was delivered to my house 3 days later. I did everything over DocuSign.
Easy.
And here's my point. There are people that I've recommended to dealers, hey, these are my friends, take care of them, and it's still 2+ hours.
Yes. Yes.
And I had such a great experience with this dealer. And I was like, these guys understand. They pivot to what the customer wants. They give the tools that the customer needs. And I knew already a few things I wanted to finance. Why force people down like a square peg in a round hole? Get them more engaged. And I've seen what, Carl and the Hello Group is doing on AutoFi. I've seen other platforms as well.
Yeah.
Really takes that clear vision. I want to do what's best for a customer and make my most money. And that's the
100%.
piece I think that dealers miss. They think that the system is an expense and not a profit center. But your research is saying improve the process, improve the profit, improve the customer experience. Now, give me your reason why you don't want to change.
Yep. Yeah, and I think what we try to do is we try to angle it. Yes, customer satisfaction matters. You want to make the customer feel good, but we also try to angle it from your sales team standpoint. The reality is that most salespeople aren't looking forward to talking numbers and going out there with the grind. The reality is,
Yeah.
and what we've learned from Hello, is there's this new generation. And Hello, if you look at Hello, they have a lot of Gen Zers. They have a lot
Yes.
of young people who have never sold cars before. Hairstylists, Amazon warehouse workers who are selling 28 cars, 40 cars a month. And the reason why is partially because the environment Hello has, but also what we find is that the technology actually makes these green peas more confident. It adds consistency in the way that their process is. And so I always say in the car business, in some ways, we're arming these young green pea, new generation, COVID generation, never learned how to sell cars, right? We're arming them with outdated tools to go to war in the negotiation. We're saying, hey, take this piece of paper and go out and sell that grumpy customer who's bought 7 cars and you've been selling cars for 1 year. And go out and convince them to take these numbers. And what we often find is the screen. People believe a screen in some ways more than a person.
Yeah.
And we,
Well,
right.
I think it's also the same screen with the same numbers, with the same
Yes.
graphics that they see online is in the
Sure.
store, right? I think there's a trust factor. I know, listen, some people say, hey, Brian, you've never sold cars.
Mhm.
Here's what I do know. And I've said, and it's not always the case where a dealer would allow me, to sell cars. I think, it's a little disruptive. I'd be a great car seller. But if
Right.
I had to do it, I would want to work at an environment like Hello because
Yes.
I multitask and I don't want to deal with paper and I don't want to deal with back and forth. And when I've talked to, like, I was at Walser a few months back and they have a dude that's doing 70 cars a month.
Right. That's
And
amazing. Wow.
I'm like, man, he's my man. I was like, and here's why. It's like very similar to Hello, right? They have a process. Price isn't the negotiating factor, and it's really about serving the customers. And that's what I love to do. I like to help people.
Yeah.
So, I get the politics of dealers doing whatever they want on how they want to sell. But I want to encourage the dealers who are listening. If you have been burnt out that platforms haven't worked, I want you to look in the mirror and say, is it a leadership issue that has been part of the reason why it hasn't succeeded? Has it been a platform that was too rigid?
Mhm.
Was that part of the solution? And number three, your workforce isn't diverse enough to give you the positive feedback that these tools are amazing, right? Because if you have a much older workforce, who wants to change anything? Like if you're using that as your benchmark, hey, I only got people who are here 20 years selling cars. I'm like, oh, good luck with that change. That's why I think your workshop can be really important. Because I want dealers to see what's possible now without the exaggeration,
Yes.
right? That this is solving all of the world's problems. It's solving some very specific problems
Yes.
that are important to solve. And when you solve them, you make more money. Come on, let's go. What's holding the world back?
100%. And I think from a technology standpoint, we have to be flexible to meet the dealers where they are. And so there's one person, one price stores, like to your point, that are going to be using it from price negotiation through lender approval through F&I menu. And then we have other stores that are like, I don't want the F&I menu, or I want my process. I want this technology to fit in my process here. And
Yes.
to me, that flexibility is really critical because sometimes in technology, we build things that are very linear, that an engineer has determined this is the best way of using it. And I think what we have found is meeting the dealers where they are. Maybe they're not ready for everything, but can we get you to do a first pencil immediately and not wait 30 minutes? That's progress. That's
Right.
progress. Right. And now we can work with you from there to say, hey, what about lender approvals? Why don't we adopt that piece? Why don't we adopt, right? And I think we can work from there. But to me, the first step and why we've had some success with this is that we're able to work with all these different dealers and philosophies and still kind of fit in to a process that they're comfortable with and then progress from there.
And I want to go back to one thing only
Yeah.
because I've seen it in action. And I'll just personalize it. So my son Connor is very different than me. You would almost say in some ways polar opposite. Doesn't like to be in the public eye, doesn't like to be speaking and presenting, but he's brilliant and talented. He understands software. He can read something and figure things out. He's never said, hey, Dad, I want to be a car salesman. But with your platform, he would succeed. If he had to stand on the point and compete in a traditional model or go back and forth with the price and feel like he's disappointing people, he would hate it. But I just know that the technology, he would flourish because I can ask him something about a product and he'll know year, date, color, limit, anything, the things that he liked, he knows it here in his head.
Yeah.
So when I see some young people on really modern retailing software, they thrive. And when you think about it, when you go to, let's just say you go into a Starbucks, there's always one or two people who are the most amazing people ever. You're like, man, I need that. Or you go into a Macy's or a Nordstrom and you're like, how much you making here? And they're like, oh, I'm making, $17 an hour. I'm like, how about doubling that, and well, how would I do that? But this earlier, younger generation is expecting tech. So I think also dealers have to say, if I want this to be a business that scales over time, passed down to my generations, I better have a tech stack that allows more people to come into the fold and sell cars.
That to me has been one of our, we almost had to add that to our value props, right? Is like being able to empower a younger generation or new salespeople, like particularly this COVID generation, people that started selling during COVID, they don't know now they're really feeling the pain of like, whoa, I thought I was killing it in 2020. This is the
Yep.
real car business, right? And I think you're absolutely right. Like I said, we've seen it at Hello, where it's like you got hairstylists and Amazon warehouse workers. And Joe was in the store. It was a while ago, about 6 months ago, but he took a picture of their board, and seeing all these like Gen Zers selling 28
Yep.
cars. It's insane. And in their F&I products, because they sell F&I products. You got this young person selling F&I products like a seasoned veteran. And so I think you're absolutely right. It's a huge value. It also, what we've learned from some of these dealers is that their turnover rate is lower, because a lot of times the salespeople really enjoy their job. They like their job. They don't feel like this villain in some ways. And so yes, it's a huge value of attracting a different type of salesperson and empowering everyone to kind of sell cars in a consistent way.
Well, for the dealers who are listening in, I hope you understand. We're talking to somebody who's not only been automotive for many years, but is really passionate about helping dealers solve for specific problems that their platform addresses. And more importantly, the conference is all about modern retailing. So if you didn't like Gen 1 or Gen 2 of digital retailing tools that didn't have a connected showroom experience, you really should look into this. Come out to the conference. Why? You're going to see the different platforms that are available and learn which one fits into your culture. You're going to be learning about how to better manage your customer data and how to activate your customer data and to do more with your people through technology. That's the overall theme at the Modern Retailing Conference. And we sell out the conference every year. So I'm not hard selling. Just going to tell the dealers, please get your tickets booked. The hotel is beautiful. We're at the O Hotel and Spa in Palm Beach, Florida. And Carrie, it has to be one of your favorite hotels, because you and I don't need to be in Vegas or some sloppy hotel that sometimes conferences are hosted in. What do you like about the Modern Retail Conference?
Well, I mean, I think for me, it's about being surrounded by leaders who are progressive, who are willing to try new things. I always say in this business, I have been in this business for 25 years. And throughout the years, I've heard so many, this won't work, this won't work, this won't work, and it works, right? And that's not the type of people that are at your conference. These are people.
That's right. Now, these are the people who are challenging the status quo.
Yes.
And sharing. I mean, that's the key. The networking and the knowledge exchange is amazing. So for dealers, go to modernretailingconference.com. Tickets are extremely affordable. We have a great room block, which will be expiring soon. So get your tickets and hotel locked in now, especially if you're looking for what is the new tech, where can I save money and make more money. These are some of the current conversations. Economic conditions are a little challenging. Well, you heard it from Carrie. PVR up, customer satisfaction up, turnover down. That's part of your strategy for 2025. How do I do more with the people I have, costing me less and making me more? That's part of the reason you should go out to the modern retail and to interact, as Carrie said, with all the colleagues. So hope to see you out there. And if this is the first time you're listening to one of my podcasts, you should know that there's a whole series of interviews with the speakers and educators that will be at the Modern Retailing Conference. So just take a look at my podcast channel, listen to all the speakers, including Carrie, and share them with your colleagues. Come out to learn and to transform your business to help you sell more cars and service in a digital age. Carrie, once again, thanks for being an amazing guest. Tell Joe I love his energy and passion. And hey, listen, all the best between now and then, and I will see you shortly in Palm Beach at the Modern Retailing Conference.
See you there.
Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Take care.